There comes a time in every soul's journey when the heart feels too bruised to trust again, too tired to hope again, and too afraid to open its doors one more time. Pain leaves marks that only Allah can see. And sometimes, it's not the heartbreak itself that destroys us. It's the fear that it may happen again. But the heart was never meant to live in fear. It was created to live in surrender. To protect your heart doesn't mean to close it off, harden it, or build walls so tall that no light can enter. Protection means purification. It means realigning your attachment so that nothing and no one sits on a throne that was meant only for Allah. Every time your heart breaks, it exposes what was built on something temporary. And Allah breaks it only to rebuild it upon something eternal. Your healing begins the moment you stop blaming the world for hurting you and start recognizing that every disappointment was a divine redirection, every ending was an unveiling, and every heartbreak was a mercy guiding you back to your true center. The strongest heart is not the one that never gets hurt. It's the one that keeps returning to Allah for protection, clarity, and strength. Because when Allah becomes the guardian of your heart, no loss can destroy you, no rejection can define you, and no person's absence can empty you. The heart that is anchored in Him becomes unshakable. So protect your heart, not by closing it, but by giving it back to the one who created it. When the heart breaks, the first instinct is to cling to people, seeking comfort, validation, or reassurance that we won't fall apart. But heartbreak itself is a reminder that anything rooted in the creation will eventually shake. The human heart was designed to find stability only with its creator, and when we forget this, we unconsciously hand people a power they were never meant to hold. Anchoring your heart in Allah is not about withdrawing from love or relationships. It's about returning the heart to its rightful place of safety. It's the recognition that people can walk with you, but they cannot carry you. They can comfort you, but they cannot heal you. They can promise, but they cannot guarantee. Only the one who created your heart knows exactly where it hurts, how deeply it hurts, and how to mend it in a way that leaves you stronger than before. Sometimes, Allah allows the heart to break so you can finally see where you've placed it. If it shatters when someone leaves, it means part of it was left in their hands. If you lose yourself when someone disappoints you, it means you were depending on them for more than they were capable of giving. Allah doesn't break your heart to punish you. He breaks it to free it, to detach it from what was draining you, to realign it with what is eternal, to teach you that peace doesn't come from people staying, from Allah holding you even when everyone else walks. When you re-anchor your heart in Him, you no longer fear loss. You no longer fear disappointment. You no longer fear vulnerability, because you know that everything taken from you is replaced with something better, and every closed door is a doorway to something written with more mercy than you can imagine. Healing begins the moment you stop begging people to fill the spaces meant for Allah. When you turn your heartbreak into a conversation with Him, when your tears become a prayer and your silence becomes a surrender, something inside you shifts. The same heart that once felt fragile becomes grounded. The same heart that felt empty becomes full. The same heart that trembled at the thought of loss becomes anchored in a love that no one can take away. You start realizing that peace isn't found in being loved by the world, it's found in being loved by Allah, and there is no heart more protected than one loved by Him. When you re-anchor your heart in Allah, your relationships change, not because you love less, but because you love differently. You love without worship. You give without losing yourself. You care without depending on the response. You stop trying to force what was never written, and you stop chasing what was never yours. You begin to love with clarity instead of desperation, with wisdom instead of fear, with boundaries instead of attachment. And that shift protects you in ways you never knew you needed. You no longer place the weight of your happiness on people who are just as fragile, just as human, and just as limited as you are. Instead, you place your hopes, expectations, and deepest emotions in the hands of the one who never fails, never forgets, and never leaves. Anchoring your heart in Allah doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you start feeling with purpose. It means your joy becomes deeper, your pain becomes meaningful, and your relationships become healthier. It means you walk through life with a heart that can be hurt, but never destroyed, because its foundation is divine. And when Allah holds your heart, you rise after every fall, you heal after every wound, and you grow after every loss. The heart that returns to Him becomes unshakable, unbreakable, and beautifully alive. Heartbreak often feels like the universe collapsing inside your chest. It feels like a door slammed shut in the middle of your journey, leaving you confused, abandoned, and questioning what you did wrong. But the truth is, heartbreak is not a punishment. It is a divine redirection wrapped in wisdom you may not understand yet. Sometimes Allah removes something from your life not because you failed, but because you were meant for something higher, cleaner, or safer. The endings that feel the most painful are often the very ones that protect you from futures that could have destroyed us. There are times when Allah closes a door so loudly that it shakes you awake, away from illusions, away from false attachments, away from paths that would have dimmed the light inside you. What you see as loss is often Allah saving you in ways hidden from your limited vision. When a heart breaks, it becomes easy to fall into self-blame. You replay the memories, the conversations, the could have beens, trying to find the moment where everything went wrong. But heartbreak is rarely about your inadequacy. It is about divine timing and divine protection. Allah sees the unseen, the intentions behind words, the future you cannot predict, the hearts you cannot read. He knows when something is no longer good for your soul, even if it once felt right. And so He removes it, not to correct you, but to free you. To redirect you towards something purer, something that aligns with your spiritual growth, something that honors your dignity, your faith, and your purpose. The pain of heartbreak is a bridge, not a wall. It pushes you to move, to grow, to evolve beyond who you were yesterday. It invites you to look inward, to question your attachments, to understand what you were holding onto and why you held onto it so tightly. Every heartbreak carries a message. This was not your destination. It teaches you where not to settle. It teaches you who not to become. It teaches you that your heart cannot rest in temporary things. And though the lesson is painful, the outcome is mercy. As humans, we cling to what is familiar even when it harms us. But Allah pulls us away from what we cannot let go of ourselves. Sometimes heartbreak is the only way Allah rewrites your story. It is the catalyst for transformation. Without it, you may never discover your worth, your resilience, or your dependence on Him. You may never realize how much you were shrinking yourself to fit into places that were too small for your soul. Heartbreak shakes you out of the illusion that your happiness depends on someone else's presence. It brings you back to the truth that peace comes only from Allah, and whatever is written for you will reach you without you breaking yourself to chase it. And whatever is not meant for you will leave, no matter how tightly you hold on. If you look closely, every heartbreak carries a hidden kindness. There are people who left before their presence could cause deeper wounds. There are paths that ended before they could lead you astray. There are relationships that broke before they could break you. Sometimes Allah takes something away only to replace it with something of far greater value, something your heart wasn't ready to receive until it was emptied. The emptiness you feel is not a void, it is space being cleared for better things, better people, better chapters written by His perfect wisdom. With time, You will look back and realize that what you thought was the worst moment of your life was actually the beginning of your healing. You will see how everything fell apart just so something more beautiful could fall into place. Heartbreak is not cruelty, it is care. Not rejection, it is protection. Not punishment, it is preparation. Allah doesn't break a believer's heart without rebuilding it in a way that elevates them. And when you finally step into what was truly meant for you, you will understand why every closed door, every tear, and every ending was a divine gift guiding you to where your soul was always meant to be. Pain has a way of reshaping us. For some, it becomes a wall, thick, cold, impenetrable. They decide that the only way to survive heartbreak is to stop feeling altogether. They shut down, detach from everyone, and build a fortress around their emotions, hoping that numbness will protect them. But pain was never meant to harden your heart. It was meant to soften it. Soften it enough to let go of what was never yours. Soften it enough to turn back to Allah. Soften it enough to see the truth behind every loss. Your pain can either become your prison or your purification, and the direction it takes depends on where you place your heart. When Allah allows pain into your life, it is not without purpose. Every heartbreak exposes the attachments that were silently ruling your heart. You begin to notice how much of your peace depended on someone's presence, how much of your happiness depended on someone's affection, how much of your identity depended on someone's validation. Pain reveals these attachments not to shame you, but to free you from the weight of depending on creation. It helps you recognize the places where you were giving parts of your heart to people who could not hold them. Pain becomes a mirror, reflecting the fragile foundations you built your emotional world upon. And through that reflection, Allah invites you to rebuild differently, to rebuild with Him at the center. Allowing pain to purify your attachments means resisting the temptation to close off your heart. It means choosing humility over bitterness, reflection over retaliation, growth over numbness. Instead of saying, "I'll never trust again," you say, "I'll trust more wisely." Instead of saying, "I'll never love again," you say, "I'll love without losing myself." Instead of saying, "I'll harden my heart so no one can hurt me," you say, "I'll soften my heart so only Allah can truly fill it." When you let pain purify you, it removes the illusions, the imbalances, and the dependencies that trapped your heart. It teaches you that the only one worthy of complete reliance is the one who never leaves, never changes, and never fails. Pain also purifies through patience. The moment you sit with your heartbreak and say, "Ya Allah, I don't understand this, but I trust you," your pain transforms into light. The tears you shed become a washing of the soul. The heaviness you feel becomes a means of elevation. Allah uses pain to cleanse your heart of what was blocking you from experiencing His nearness. The more you surrender your pain to Him, the more it turns from bitterness into wisdom, from chaos into calm, from despair into clarity. Pain becomes a teacher, showing you what truly matters, teaching you resilience, deepening your faith, and reminding you that temporary losses lead to eternal gains. A hardened heart cannot heal. It cannot love deeply, pray sincerely, or connect meaningfully. Hardness shields you from hurt, but it also shields you from mercy. It numbs you to pain, but it also numbs you to joy. When you let pain harden your heart, you carry the very wound you are trying to escape. But when you let pain purify your heart, you begin to release the weight you were never meant to hold. You stop expecting creation to be your constant. You stop seeking completion in people. You stop chasing validation outside of Allah. And in that release, you finally begin to heal. Purification doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means transforming the meaning of what happened. It means taking the lessons, the growth, the spiritual awakening, and the deeper understanding of your own heart. It means allowing Allah to reshape your inner world so that future love, future relationships, and future chapters are built on strength rather than fear. You emerge more grounded, more aware, more connected to, and more aligned with your true worth. Pain will visit every heart. That is the nature of this world. But what you do with that pain defines your journey. You can let it turn you cold, or you can let it turn you closer. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. You can let it shatter you, or you can let it shape. And when you choose purification over hardness, Allah replaces every wound with wisdom, every tear with strength, and every heartbreak with a heart that is softer, stronger, and more beautifully alive than ever before. There comes a point in healing where you realize that protecting your heart is not about building walls, but about building wisdom. Emotional boundaries are not barriers to love, they are expressions of self-respect. They are the quiet way your soul says, I know my worth, and I will not allow myself to be treated as less. When your boundaries come from a place of insecurity, they sound like fear. But when they come from a place of faith and self-worth, they sound like dignity. And dignity is a gift Allah owning. Setting emotional boundaries is not about shutting people out. It is about deciding what or who is allowed to disturb the peace Allah has placed within you. For many people, heartbreak comes from giving too much of the heart to places where it was never cherished, or trusting too deeply in hands that were not capable of holding them. Boundaries become essential, not to push love, but to prevent yourself from pouring into relationships that drain you, disrespect you, or distract you from Allah. When you know your worth, you stop excusing behavior that hurts your soul. You stop settling for half love, inconsistent affection, or emotional crew. You stop trying to prove your value to someone who cannot see it. Boundaries rooted in self-worth remind you that you deserve kindness, honesty, clarity, and respect. They remind you that your heart is not cheap and your emotions are not a playground for anyone's confusion. But boundaries alone are not enough. They must be paired with trust in Allah. Because if you fear losing people more than you fear losing yourself, your boundaries will crumble. You will give in, compromise, bend, and sacrifice pieces of yourself just to keep someone close. But when your trust is in Allah, you stand firmer. You understand that what is written for you will never require you to shrink, suffer, or chase. You understand that letting go of someone who continually hurts you is not a loss. It is protection. You understand that Allah never removes something from your life without replacing it with something better, even if you cannot see it yet. When trust in Allah strengthens your boundaries, you no longer panic when someone distances themselves. You no longer cling to relationships out of fear. You release what isn't good for your soul with grace, knowing Allah will fill the emptiness with something more beautiful. Setting emotional boundaries also means acknowledging your emotional limits. You cannot save everyone. You cannot fix everyone. You cannot carry hearts that refuse to heal themselves. You are responsible for your compassion, but not for someone else's chaos. And that realization frees you. It teaches you that your energy, time, and heart are sacred trusts from Allah. You do not owe them to anyone who mishandles them. You do not owe constant availability to people who only call when they need something. You do not owe loyalty to those who betray your sincerity. When your boundaries are rooted in self-worth, you naturally attract relationships that reflect that worth. Boundaries also protect your spiritual well-being. Without them, you may find yourself losing your connection with Allah, trying to hold on to someone who pulls you away from Him. Emotional boundaries guard your heart from falling into dependency, from idolizing people, from giving them authority over your happiness. They remind you that true stability, true comfort, and true love come from Allah alone. And the heart that knows this becomes a heart that loves deeply, but loves with clarity, not desperation. When you start setting boundaries, Some people will not like it. They will call you distant, selfish, or cold. But that is only because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Anyone who genuinely cares for you will respect your limits, honor your space, and appreciate your honesty. Boundaries reveal who is meant to be in your life and who is not. They filter out those who only came for convenience and highlight those who are capable of sincerity, responsibility, and real connection. Ultimately, emotional boundaries are acts of faith. They say, via Allah, I choose myself because you created me with value. I choose my peace because you want ease for me. I choose my dignity because honor comes from you. And I trust that anything I lose by setting boundaries was never written for me in the first place. When you live with that belief, your heart becomes safer, not because you're guarded, but because Allah is guarding it for you. Fear of being hurt again can become a quiet prison, one you build without realizing it. It starts with small hesitation, doubting people's intentions, keeping your heart at a distance, expecting disappointment before it even arrives. You begin to fear vulnerability because vulnerability once cost you peace. You fear emotional closeness because closeness once led to pain. And slowly, fear becomes a lens through which you see the world. But the heart was never designed to live in fear. It was designed to live in surrender. The moment you replace fear with surrender to Allah's protection, everything inside you begins to shift. You stop trying to predict who will hurt you and start trusting the one who heals you. You stop living in the past and begin stepping into the healing that Allah is offering you in the present. Fear tells you, if you open your heart, you will break again. But Allah tells you, if you trust me, I will guard what you give me. There is no protection stronger than Allah's, no safety deeper than His decree, and no comfort more lasting than His care. When you surrender your fear to Him, you are not pretending the past didn't wound you. You are acknowledging the wound while refusing to let it define your future. You are saying, via Allah you saw what broke me. You saw what left me in pieces. You know the fears I carry. Take them and replace them with your peace. And Allah responds to sincerity with mercy. He responds to trembling hearts with reassurance. He responds to wounds with healing so gentle that you'll one day wonder how you ever feared love at all. Fear narrows your world. It convinces you that everyone will hurt you the way someone once did. It convinces you that protection means isolation, that safety means emotional distance. But fear does not protect you. It only prevents you from receiving the goodness Allah is writing for you. When you surrender your fear to Allah, you begin to see that pain was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to teach you. It was meant to redirect you, to awaken you, to detach you from people who were not written for your heart. Allah did not create you to live half alive, hiding behind pain. He created you to experience love, connection, and tenderness, but in a way that is grounded in Him, not in fear. Surrender is not weakness. It is strength of the highest form. It is looking at your past and still choosing to hope. It is acknowledging your vulnerability while trusting that Allah will not let it be misused. It is opening your heart again, not recklessly, but with wisdom, faith, and reliance on the one who never disappoints. Surrendering to Allah's protection means you stop relying on your own fears to safeguard you, and you start relying on His guidance to lead you to what is truly good. It means you understand that your heart is safest when it is in His hands, not in the hands of people, not in the grip of fear. When you let fear lead, you shrink. When you let Allah lead, surrender teaches you that you don't need to control every outcome. You don't need to predict every intention. You don't need to preempt every heartbreak. Your job is to show up with a sincere heart. Allah's job is to protect it. And He does. Sometimes by bringing the right people into your life, sometimes by removing the wrong ones, and sometimes by strengthening you so deeply that even heartbreak cannot break you the way it once did. His protection is not limited to shielding you from pain. It also includes preparing you for resilience, granting you insight, and guiding you toward what aligns with your soul. When you surrender fear, you free yourself. You open the door to new beginnings, new mercy, and new love that is healthier, gentler, and more aligned with your worth. The past no longer holds your heart holster. You begin to trust not that people won't hurt you, but that Allah won't abandon you. Even if pain comes, it will be purposeful. Even if someone leaves, it will be protective. Even if a chapter closes, it will be replaced with something better. Fear chains the heart. Surrender liberates it. And when you finally choose surrender over fear, you discover a peace that no heartbreak can take away. A peace that comes from knowing that Allah is not only healing your heart, He is guarding it, guiding it, and preparing it for what was always meant for you. There is a kind of rebuilding that only Allah can do, a rebuilding that doesn't just patch the cracks, but transforms the entire foundation of your heart. When life breaks you, when people disappoint you, when love wounds you so deeply that you no longer recognize the person you were before, you may feel as though your heart is beyond repair. But the one who created your heart is the one who can restore it in ways you never imagined. Letting Allah rebuild your heart means trusting Him with the pieces you've been holding together on your own. It means placing your brokenness in His hands and allowing Him to shape you into someone stronger, softer, wiser, and more connected to Him than ever before. Sometimes Allah breaks the heart not to destroy it, but to remove what was harming you, weakening you, or keeping you attached to what was never meant to stay. The heart that never breaks is a heart that never learned. The heart that never cracks open never expands to receive greater wisdom, deeper compassion, and a stronger connection with its creator. Rebuilding doesn't start with forgetting what hurt you. It starts with surrendering what hurt you. It starts the moment you stop trying to heal yourself through distractions, denial, or emotional walls, and instead whisper, "Fia Allah, I can't rebuild myself. Rebuild me as you know I should be." When Allah rebuilds your heart, the process may feel slow. Healing rarely happens in a single moment. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes years, but every step is intentional. Every delay is a lesson. Every moment of emptiness is actually a planting of something new inside you. Allah fills the spaces that pain left behind with qualities you could never have gained without those wounds: patience, wisdom, humility, resilience, empathy, and a deeper longing for Him. You begin to understand that pain doesn't just break you, it opens you. It expands your capacity to love with purity rather than dependency, to trust without fear, and to walk through life without being shaken by every storm. A heart rebuilt by Allah is not the same heart you had before. It is gentler, but not fragile. Stronger, but not hardened. Open, but not unguarded. It carries a kind of quiet power that only comes from knowing that your worth, your peace, and your future are not in the hands of people, but in the hands of the most merciful. You no longer seek validation from those who once hurt you. You no longer chase love in the places that drained. You no longer fear loneliness because you have discovered the companionship of the one who never leaves. Letting Allah rebuild your heart also means allowing Him to rewrite your story. Sometimes we cling to old chapters because we fear what comes next. But Allah cannot fill a heart that is still holding on to what He is trying to replace. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is the beginning of divine rebuilding. When you release what was never made, you make space for what was always meant to be. And Allah never takes without giving back. He never closes one door without opening another. He never breaks a believer's heart except to rebuild it with something better, something more aligned with their soul, something that brings them closer to Him. A heart rebuilt by Allah becomes unshakable. It becomes a home for tranquility, a vessel of trust, a place where fear dissolves into faith. It is not that life stops hurting. It is that nothing has the power to break you in the same way anymore. You understand that every heartbreak was a lesson, every loss was protection, every delay was preparation, and every tear was seen by the one who heals all wounds. You walk with a calmness that confuses those who once saw you shattered, because now your strength comes from a source that cannot be shaken. When you let Allah rebuild your heart, you don't just heal. You transform. You rise with a new clarity, a deeper gratitude, and a stronger connection to the one who never abandons his servant. And the heart that emerges is not only whole, it is whole in a way it never was before. Unshakable, anchored, and beautifully protected by the one who knows your heart better than you ever will.